Hello, welcome to Spotlight on Bensenville. My name is Frank DeSimone, Village President and your host for this episode. Today we'll be discussing the Bensenville Rodent Mitigation Program with Curtis Posgay, Director of Community and Economic Development, as well as Evan Summers, Village Manager. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Can you give us an overview of the Rodent Mitigation Program and its main objective?
Absolutely. So the Rodent Mitigation Program started back in 2021, and we've been implementing that every day here at the Village of Bensenville. Its key focus is to help monitor, manage, and control rodent populations within the Village of Bensenville. At the heart of it is what's called an integrated pest management plan, and that's the guiding document that Curtis and his staff use every day to help implement this. It's basically focused on eliminating rodent populations in an environmentally friendly and fiscally responsible way.
So what is the history of the rodent mitigation in Bensenville and how has it evolved since then?
Yeah, so historically, Bensenville hasn't had much of a rodent issue. I would say it's the last 2 years that we've really seen a real jump in complaints and requests regarding rodents. But in some form or another, we've been dealing with rodents since 2017. We've actually done pest control since then with a contractor. But it's been the last 2 years where we've really seen, the program evolve. Evan talked about the plan that we put together to help deal with it. We've done things like adopt ordinances requiring all our rental and commercial establishments to do pest control. We've implemented a policy, so anytime there's construction that is actually like disturbing the land, so like a new home or a new building, as a condition of permit, they have to do pest control now. So we've really kind of upped our game in the last couple of years. We're not really sure why there's so many more rodent complaints. We assume it's things like there's a lot more construction going on around O'Hare, right? There's a lot more developments going on in and around Bensenville. Wooddale's doing a lot west of 83. We think disturbing that land has affected our property owners. So, we've really had to rethink and kind of target the program more. And part of that is through our See-Click Fix program. So that's really for any complaint that comes from the village, but we encourage residents to go there if they have a rodent issue so we can investigate. We'll send out an inspector, we'll take a look to see if we need to get our pest control contractor involved. But right now it kind of all starts there. If you can't get onto there, we tell you to call in, but we're really focused on investigating and then mitigating once that investigation happens.
So this isn't a program that we just started 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago. We've been doing this for 3+ years?
Yeah, at least. I mean, like I said, in some form or another, even if we didn't have an official program, we were doing rodent mitigation. And at least since 2017, we had bait stations. We were helping out with certain neighborhoods. So we've formalized the program, better over the last couple of years. So now we'd have the integrated pest management plan. And then we've, this year alone, really stepped up our game with pest control and a contractor and really targeting like hot spots, essentially.
Okay. So what are the main signs that if me, the resident, should look for to know that I have a rodent problem?
Yeah, so if you notice rodents on your property, while this issue can seem really complex, at its core, it's pretty basic because rodents and rats need only 3 things. They need food, water, and habitat. So if you notice a rodent on your property, you need to survey what's going on around you and notice, what are the rats eating? Is it overflowing garbage? What are they drinking? Is there standing water? Where are they living? Do you have piles of logs or rubbish in your yard? And so once you can notice those types of things, you can start coming up with your own pest management strategies. And elimination of any one of those 3 things should eliminate the rodent population. So, if you notice rodents, you can take some immediate steps. If you got a bird feeder, take it down. I love bird feeders, I love birds, but the birds inherently knock the feed down, and that just creates a buffet for rodents. Picking up after your pet. This is probably one of the things we see most often is people let their dog go out in their yard, do their business, and the dog comes in. Well, you've just created a food source that rats just can't get enough of. So pick up after your pets right away. And then, things like piles of logs, piles of rocks, all that stuff is a habitat for rodents. And so we want to get that either eliminated or at least off the ground 18 inches. So if you have your firewood out back, get it up off the ground. Rats don't like to be off the ground. They want to stay close to the ground because that's where they feel safer.
So can you walk us through the process of how residents can request an inspection through CED?
Yeah, so I touched on it, but we really rely on the See-Click-Fix app and kind of website portal where residents can file a request, complaints. This really goes for anything. In the village, if a resident has an issue, this is a good, place to go. But for rodents, we have a specific rodent request in there. That request comes Community and Economic Development. We immediately send an inspector out to do an inspection. The first thing they're looking for is what Evan just talked about, is those 3 areas of mitigation. So they want to make sure that property is cleaned, that we're not providing a food source, there's not a water source. So a lot of times we can stop there. If we can issue a correction notice to the property owner saying, here's what you can do to clean up your property, and we should be, good, to mitigate rodents at that station, at that spot. But frequently, especially nowadays, we're having to go a step further. We're finding burrows, we're finding habitat already established. So we'll bring out our pest control management company. So that we'll basically schedule a second inspection, come up with the pest control people. They'll assess the situation and then kind of determine a course of action. Generally, what that means is we're placing bait stations. So with our program, with our contractor, the village is paying for the placement of those bait stations for a 6-month period. After that 6 months, we go back and see, we basically determine, did that help? So first and foremost, we need the property owner to clean up, make sure there's no food source and there's no habitat. And then if we're baiting, hopefully that's maintained for 6 months and the problem goes away. If it hasn't gone away, we got to reassess where are we at and how do we get, better? How do, what did we do wrong? So it's definitely an evolving, issue. You're monitoring, you're checking in. But right now it's kind of a 6-month or so process of making sure we're getting rid of the rodents.
I heard a resident when I was out and about saying, I've been here for X amount of years, I've never seen a rat. I kind of determined that's because of all the construction that we're doing, right? I mean, we're disturbing their homes by digging their land. So they're popping out to go into the neighborhoods. Once all the construction kind of settles down, do you see this possibly settling down as well?
Yeah, I guess, we would hope so. I mean, we do think that that's probably the main source right now, whereas we're just kicking them up and they're moving from place to place. We even see it in how aggressive they are in going into garbage cans. I mean, they're chewing through, people's plastic lids, and that means they're desperate for a food source, right? So we think we're moving them, we're pushing them into the neighborhoods, and that's why we're seeing more right now. So yes, we would hope once construction kind of calms down, this is our biggest capital improvement project year we've had in our history, and we think that's probably a part of it too. But also, like I said, Wooddale, they tore down 2 neighborhoods, and our building right now. And all that land disturbance is kicking them into the neighborhoods south of there. And so we're getting a lot of complaints up in your neighborhood, actually. And we think that's a big part of it, too. So hopefully once construction dies down, we see the problem die down a little bit. But again, it's something we're monitoring. And if we continue to see the complaints, we're going to handle it like we always do. We'll inspect. We'll try to kill the food source, kill the water source, make sure the property's cleaned up, and then we'll mitigate if we need to.
It's kind of like we're stuck in the middle. The tollway's dragging them to the west, and the towns are dragging them back to the east, and we're stuck in the middle.
We've got the tollway doing a $4 billion project. We've got O'Hare doing a $9 billion project. We've got private investment in commercial real estate. You're right, we're surrounded on a lot of edges right now.
So why is this program limited to only the incorporated residents?
That's a great question, and it comes down to everything Curtis has talked about that we're paying for with the contractors is essentially fundamentally being paid for with tax dollars. And we get tax dollars only from our residents through property taxes. It would be unfair to our residents if we're spending their tax dollars out to benefit anyone outside of Bensenville. So we want to keep that money here. That's not to say unincorporated residents don't have recourse. They can go to DuPage County, Addison Township. That's who they're accountable to because they pay taxes to them. So it's just a fundamental thing. We don't spend village tax dollars outside of our village limits. I understand that rats don't know what our boundaries are, but those unincorporated residents are accountable to someone else.
Either the snow and either those other
Correct.
things
we
that
don't pave
unincorporated
we don't pave roads in other towns. We don't pick up garbage in other towns. We don't plow snow in other unincorporated areas. Our money's spent in our town.
Are there any common misconceptions about rodent control that you'd like to address now?
Yeah, I want to take that one. I think a lot of people think that this is solely the village's responsibility. And we do have a role to play, but our role pretty much is limited to public areas, the right-of-way, and we do a heck of a job trying to patrol that. What we don't have eyes on at all times are the things that's happening in people's backyards. So for this to be a successful program, it's got to be a partnership between us and every single resident in town. They need to make sure that they're maintaining their backyards. We need to make sure that we're maintaining our parkways. Residents need to be able to tell us if their garbage can has a hole in it and needs to be replaced. We can help with that, but we're not able to check every single garbage can. So,
and if we don't know about it, how are we
Correct.
gonna get to the
Correct.
source of it?
And that goes into what Chris was talking about, See-Click Fix. See-Click Fix, what it does is feed into our work management system as a village, and that covers everything. That goes from permits to noise complaints. Everything goes into that software. So when a resident does a See-Click Fix, it feeds directly in the same system that I get to feed into to create that work plan to resolve things. I think another misconception is that this is only a Bensenville problem. I think Curtis mentioned, this is an everywhere problem this year. There's a lot of reasons why, but it's not just Bensenville, it's our neighboring towns, it's everywhere. I talked to my other village managers and they've got the same concerns. I don't think anyone is being as forward with their residents and addressing it and having these conversations. You and I talked, we thought it was necessary to have this conversation because it takes a village.
Right.
It takes a village to resolve this. I think we can get out of this. It's just going to take a lot of hard work and everyone's got to be involved in that.
I know we touched on this. Well, let's go over one more time. What preventative measures can residents take to avoid rodent infestations?
Yeah, I mean, maintain your properties. I mean, that's just the key. I mean, we got to stop those three things that rodents need to survive: food, water, and habitat. I mean, so easily the biggest thing you can do is keep your properties clean, cut your grass, don't leave piles of debris inside, outside, that gives them places to hide. Eliminate those food sources. The pet problem, I mean, Evan mentioned it, but that's probably the biggest one. I mean, every time we go out and inspect a property, I mean, not every time, but most of the time, I mean, we can almost point to a dog or something that, they're not cleaning up, or maybe a neighbor's not cleaning up, and there's an issue there. Evan touched on it too. I mean, the one we're seeing a lot lately is the bird feeders and kind of feeding wildlife in general. I mean, we've had some more blatant ones where people are just literally tossing food into their backyard. And that's an easier one to solve. I mean, just stop doing that. The bird feeders is tricky because we get it. We love bird feeders, but it's a big problem lately. And we saw a beautiful home the other day, and their backyard was gorgeous and had bird feeders all over, but some of them were on the ground and they were different kind of feeders. And we kind of had to tell her, like, this is why you're seeing rats. I mean, so that's the biggest thing, is just maintain your properties. And then, quite frankly, if the issue is sort of beyond your control, or even if it's not, even if you just have the issue and we want to come up, we want to be able to know about it. So it's See-Click Fix. It's calling the village if you can't get onto the website or the app and letting us know so we can put it into See-Click Fix. But we want to be able to investigate, and we'll help you get through it.
Yeah, again, so if we don't know about it, because we don't monitor everybody's personal life, if we don't know about it, we can't start the process to fix it.
Exactly.
For sure. We have a role in this. We want to be able to help facilitate. We have trained inspectors that are following Illinois Department of Public Health guidelines for municipal rodent programs. But do a See-Click Fix, give us a call, we'll get an inspector out there, and they'll walk you through what needs to be done. Again, I think we can get beyond this, and everyone just needs to play a role.
Is it true, and we talked about this because we've been doing a lot of rat research lately, cicadas playing a role?
Yeah, so it sounds odd, but that 17-year cicada provided an ample food source for rodents. And, we all saw them. The cicadas is on the ground, and, a rat gets to come out of its burrow, and it's got a buffet of cicadas right there. So that probably played into it. When animals are well fed, they procreate more, and those babies get to have an ample food source as well. It just really feeds into itself. And I think it's not just rats. If you notice, I've noticed this, there's a ton of bunnies out there this year. There's a lot of squirrels out there. A lot of that shows that 17-year cicada cycle played a role in this.
So why are rentals and multifamily homes and businesses excluded from this program?
Yeah, and when we say excluded for the program, we mean the village is not going to pay for the pest control, the bait stations. So that's just, we have our ordinances, and these have been long adopted. Even before we really started, we were going to, go into the residential neighborhoods and start paying for bait stations more. We've always said that, commercial establishments, including rental, which are, fundamentally a commercial establishment, they need to provide for their own pest control. So that's by ordinance. That's kind of been long established here at the village.
You guys have a few more minutes. We have to take a quick break.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
You're watching Bensenville TV, providing local government programming to residents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, featuring board meetings, news, events, bulletin boards, and original programming about the services provided by our municipal government and affiliated organizations. Always on, offering community information anytime. To find out more, visit our website, www.bensenville.il.us. Live, learn, explore. Bensenville Community Television.
Hello, welcome back to Spotlight on Bensenville. My name is Frank DeSimone, Village President, and your host for this episode. Today we are discussing the Bensenville Rodent Mitigation Program with Curtis Posgay, our Director of Community and Economic Development, as well as Evan Summers, Village Manager. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
So can you explain the ordinances that rentals, multifamily units, and businesses must follow for this pest control?
Yeah, I touched on it before, but so we've created ordinances that, so we did one specifically for the multifamily and rentals, and that was, I believe, either 2022 or early 2023, saying they must do pest control. So they literally have to provide us with a contract that shows that they are doing pest control nonstop. I mean, that is required by ordinance. For commercial establishments, it's similar. We will, even if we're getting complaints and we're doing inspections, we'll go to them, in a similar manner to the residentials. We'll do an inspection, we'll determine if pest control is needed, but then it's their responsibility as a commercial establishment to do the pest control. A good chunk of our commercial establishments, especially strip center types, have already done that, or fast food establishments. They generally have a pest control, management program in place. But for those that don't, that's part of our correction notice, that they must, implement that in order to deal with the issue.
And I think it's important too that if you are a resident in a rental apartment building or a rental home and you are noticing rodent activity, give us a call, go through See-Click-Fix. We'll come out and we'll make sure that those bait stations are being utilized and the contracts are in place. Likewise, if you see an overflowing dumpster at a fast food restaurant, that's what we have inspectors for. Let us know. We'll get an inspector out there and we can help remediate that problem before it gets out of control.
So how does the CED handle cases where rodent issues are reported in properties like the rentals and businesses?
Yeah, so I touched on it. It's basically similar to the residential program. So generally it's through See-Click-Fix, whether that's someone doing their own request or calling into Community and Economic Development. Evan just touched on it. A lot of it has to do with dumpster corrals and cleanup of trash and making those sites clean. Our restaurants, it naturally will have more of an issue than other commercial establishments. So, we handle it the same way. A request comes in, we send an inspector out. There's generally a correction notice issued if there is an issue. And they have so many days to handle that. Correction notices put a hard deadline on an issue. So, whether it's 7 days or 30 days to correct an issue, kind of depending on the severity of it. But then if they don't comply, we can start an adjudication process. We actually can take them to court, and then additional fines can be assessed and levied.
We were pretty successful in that too. It's, when it comes to the overflowing dumpster, which is a pretty common thing, our community development departments work to add additional pickups from the garbage company, and we'll make sure that they get a new contract with their garbage company to make sure that waste is getting picked up more regularly, which eliminates that food source that we were talking about earlier, which is so necessary for rodents to survive.
And I know the garbage company's been working well with us too, trying to kind of step it up a notch.
Yep, they have. Republic Services, who services all of our residential multifamily, we've met with them and we've clued them in that if their drivers are noticing damaged containers, start replacing those containers.
So how can residents see the activity and the occurrences of the rodent mitigation program?
Yeah, so kind of one of my favorite things that we've been doing, I guess, more recently is working with our Geographic Information Systems, our GIS consultant. they have been able to interact with our see-click-fix data and basically create a live map. So with this map, we've been able to put dots essentially for every complaint or request that we received through see-click-fix, which helps our department actually visualize kind of hotspots and things. So we know we're kind of problem neighborhoods or maybe problem buildings or restaurants or whatever. We can kind of see that and kind of attack that more. And then it helps with our pest control, like knowing where we should be targeting, what areas. Currently that map is in a static PDF form on the website, but we are actually working with GIS. I mean, maybe even as soon as this week. So trying to get a live version of that map and an interactive version of that map. So residents will be able to go onto the website. They'll be able to toggle off different years, different months, and then they'll be also just able to see what live bait stations we actually have out in the community right now. So it's just exciting. It's something that I'm kind of big into. I kind of love GIS. It's a very interesting interactive mapping feature that it really helps us visualize the problem and it helps us better attack the problem. So
yeah, it's using technology to create solutions. So if we see a hotspot, we can actually be proactive and take that hotspot and create a perimeter around that hotspot where we can start attacking or preventing rodents from spreading out of there. So it's using technology. It's a cost-effective way to get ahead of a problem.
How can residents be more proactive in supporting the roles of the rodent mitigation program?
I think the first and foremost, if you haven't had rodents on your property yet, awesome. Well, let's get ahead of it. Now's the time to go do that survey of your yard, talk to your neighbors about, maybe taking that bird feeder down, making sure that we're picking up pet waste after every time the pet goes out, get the debris off the ground, eliminate the debris, eliminate the habitat, eliminate the standing water sources. If you have a dog and you're putting dog food outside, maybe bring that dog food inside. Don't have the water bowl out there all day long for your dog. So start preventing the problem. And then also working with your neighbors. I know a lot of times we get into my neighbor complaints about other people's neighbors. The most effective way, and the way I know you always talk about building community, we need to get residents talking to each other again. Mm-hmm. So talk to your neighbors. When you're out walking on the sidewalks with your family, talk to your neighbors about this problem. It is a problem. We're addressing it, but it's only going to take that village, and creating community to address the problem is really the best way out of this.
And beyond that, I mean, if there is a problem, I mean, let us know about it. I mean, whether it's, you're going into see-click-fix yourself and creating a request, or calling the village, talk to the community economic development, so we can get out there and look at it. So, we'll let you know if it's a minor problem or if it's a major problem. I mean, we're going to be up front, and if we need to bring out pest control to help solve that, problem, we will.
And we're about to start your Coffees with the Village President this fall. Those are starting up pretty soon. I anticipate a lot of conversations about this, and we're going to be ready to take the information and instruct residents what they need to do and what we're going to be doing as a follow-up.
I mean, we've always been upfront with the residents, and like I said, anybody could say anything about anyone, right? But I believe I was actually surprised that we had a hotspot map going back to 2017. I mean, that was so we've been monitoring it, and I guess progress comes pain a little bit, right? All this progress has happened over the last 7 years, disturbed some of these critters' homes, and just like when the coyotes were out and the foxes were out, I mean, that's because their habitats were being disturbed a little bit, so that they had to move forward, and I get it. But the problem is if we don't know about it, if we don't see it, if we're not told, we're not monitoring social media, we're not monitoring people's conversations on the sidewalk. They got to come and tell us.
Yeah.
So once we know we're going to be on it, we're going to attack it. I mean, that's the number one.
Yeah.
We're spending a lot of time, energy, effort, and money on this problem.
I agree.
It's something that I wish we didn't have to spend money on, but we're here.
It's here, right? It's here, and we're going to do. Yeah, we're going to do it. So how do you prioritize inspection requests, especially during our peak times of the year? Yeah,
I mean, honestly, we just handle them as they come in. I mean, I don't think we've ever been overwhelmed. I mean, we have gotten a lot more requests. Even in the last couple of weeks, the requests are coming in hot, and we are confident we can handle it at this point. We send an inspector out, to every request. We can generally get there within a day or two, if not same day. If we need to go back out with the pest control specialist, we schedule that. I mean, 1 week this year, we did a targeted commercial property inspection. We basically, my inspectors took the entire week, to focus on commercial businesses, went to every one of them in the corridors. We issued over 150 correction notices. I think that's a success. I mean, that means we're out there attacking the problem. I might see that something we're doing every year. Is we're just going to take a week and we're going to go after the commercial businesses and make sure that they're doing what they should be doing. So, I don't think we've ever been overwhelmed. I think we've been able to handle it so far, even with the uptick, in requests and complaints. And we're just kind of handle them as they come in.
How can residents find out more about our program?
Yeah, so we built a landing page on the website. So if you go to community at the top of the kind of the main page, there's going to be a drop down, and you'll see a rodent mitigation program link. So on that page tells you everything that we've just been talking about, essentially, and that'll actually it has the map currently, but it'll have the future interactive map on there as well. But it also explains how to get into See-Click-Fix and report complaints, and all that. That's, like I said, we keep talking about it, but that's easily the best thing you can do is let us know that there's an issue. That either needs to be put into See-Click-Fix by you or call our department. And my department, Community and Economic Development, is 630-350-3413. Any of my clerks will be able to take your request and put it into See-Click-Fix if you're not able to. And like I said, that's how we're tracking them, we're monitoring them, that's how we schedule inspections, that's how we're looking at that map to see if we're having issues in certain areas. I mean, to me, that's maybe the biggest thing that we can do to wrap our hands around the problem.
The See-Click-Fix app is great. You can access See-Click-Fix a number of ways. Call us, go on the website. There's also the app. And we have some residents out there who I know are out there walking their kids in strollers with the app out, and they're just tagging things for us, and that's great. It's not annoying, it's not creating a burden on them. That's what we need. So I encourage everyone to go download that app because like I said, it feeds right into the same work management software that I use, that you use, and the residents we don't have priority over the residents. They go in the same work order. So get those work orders in for us, and we're going to start tackling.
And just so everyone knows too, there is, we talked about it a little bit. You don't want to be the one complaining on all your neighbors or ratting anybody out, quote unquote. But you can do this anonymously. There's an option in See-Click-Fix to do an anonymous request. All we really need is the address of the issue, though. Make sure you're putting where you're noticing the issue. Don't just, generally say an area. That doesn't really help us. We need to be able to go to a specific address to target the problem. So, get in there. You can request anonymously. We'll go check out the issue, and really that's how we're going to solve this problem.
And I think as we close out here, the one thing I want to end on is this is a complex problem. It's got to take time to resolve, but at the root of the problem comes those three things that rodents need. And as long as we can eliminate those, we can win this problem. It's food, water, and shelter.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It was very informative, and like I said, we are going to conquer this problem like we do everything else. We face it head on. So thank you very much for all the information. Thanks for all the hard work. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week for Spotlight in Bensenville.